Welcome everyone to 4-Player Podcast's Audible impression for Sleeping Dogs. I am an editor at 4playerpodcast.com, Jeffrey DeMello, and with me, fellow editors Joseph Christ and Chris Davis. What's up, guys?
Hey, you know what I'm doing? I'm so excited about Sleeping Dogs. Is I'm actually drinking this unfiltered sake drink called Kuksun Dang, or something like that. I got it from the store.
Sake is Japanese, though.
Oh, but it's still it's Asian, right? Asian-esque of a sort.
I knew this was going to be
200 miles off, but that's close enough.
It's it's in the same hemisphere, I think, of other Asian people. There's billions of them, so you can't really go anywhere without, Anyway.
Yes, this is exactly how I expected this Audible impression to start.
I'm so excited because it's, I don't want to jump the gun here, but Sleeping Dogs is really good.
You should jump the gun, so you should start. Let's discuss what we like about Sleeping Dogs.
I would say jumping, guns are both big aspects of Sleeping Dogs, so we're going on the right track.
Yes.
So.
Happens to happen quite often.
Right. I will say that, Sleeping Dogs is probably the sleeper hit of the year. Huh? Right. Okay, all right, I'm done. That's enough.
Doing this tonight, really.
That's enough puns. So anyway, I think the truth is no one really expected Sleeping Dogs to be all of that great. Some hype really started around PAX East this year about this game, and it's kind of been slowly going from there. And now that it's released and everyone has their hands on it, it's really an amazing game. And I would say I haven't finished the game yet. I have a good maybe 6 hours into it. I already like it better than GTA 4 for numerous reasons, a lot of reasons. A lot of people are gonna put those two games together, or put these two games together and talk about them that way. But it does so many things right that GTA 4 and the GTA series kind of, for the most part, got wrong. I would say the GTA game that's closest to this one is San Andreas. Because one thing that Sleeping Dogs does really well is all the sort of gaminess of it and the arcadiness of it. That Rockstar kind of has taken out of the GTA games in the quest to sort of make things more realistic or cinematic. And Sleeping Dogs kind of eschews all of that and says, we're a video game, we're going to kind of make this fun, and it just makes it for a better experience. Like, one of the things that stands out to me that exemplifies that is, when you're done with a mission in Sleeping Dogs, it has little mission stats that pop up, and you have levels, and has RPG elements and skills, all those things that are missing from GTA 4 in particular. Whereas in GTA 4, I just kind of got bored of doing missions because there wasn't that that money shot of getting experience and getting more levels and getting that progression. Yeah, I mean, the mission just became boring. Whereas in Sleeping Dogs, I always have a reason to do it, even if it's just, I have to do an escort mission, or I just have to beat up these guys, and that's all I'm doing. I'm doing it for a reason. I'm not just doing it to propel the story. I'm doing to propel my character. And that's one of the many things that I think really sets Sleeping Dogs apart from other open world games that we've been seeing recently, is that it does a lot more for player progression.
Chris, what do you like
I think
about
the
this
thing
game?
for me, that really interests, has really gotten me into this, is the fact that this is an open world, crime sandbox game, but for once, your character isn't technically a criminal. You're an undercover cop working for the Hong Kong police.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at the heart of the game, you're going through the triad, trying to bust people and get evidence on the triad to shut them down. But at the same time, outside of those missions, you can do a lot of cop-oriented things to help the Hong Kong police further along.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I mean, I really liked LA Noire because of that, but I don't really get into Grand Theft Auto, except for 4, because I couldn't sympathize with the main character.
Mm-hmm.
I could sympathize a little bit with Nico Bellic for GTA 4, but I couldn't do it in San Andreas or Vice City or in GTA 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting that this time around. It's actually satisfying me for once.
Yeah, and especially when you're going out and doing those other side missions and those cop missions, your character in Sleeping Dogs, you actually have three main three main levels, or three main traits that you can raise levels in. And one is the triad tree, the second is the cop tree, and the second is the face tree, which face is basically you go around helping people and improves your face with the community. So people start to recognize you, and I guess that's where they get the word face from.
Oh, is it? I thought it was because you gained that level from punching people in the face.
No.
Well, you gain notoriety for doing that.
Notoriety.
That's what FaceTime means.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to punching people, because that's something else that's really great in this game. Is punching dudes feels really good in this game. But I mean, as you're doing a level, you're actually, and maybe not the face so much, but with the cop tree and the triad tree, you're actually gaining experience in both of those trees at the same time, depending on how you do stuff. And primarily, if you're doing stuff for the triads, you're gaining triad XP. If you're doing stuff, like when you're driving, if you start ramming people or doing property damage or injuring civilians, you actually start losing how much XP you'll gain in the cop tree. So it actually forces you to sort of play a certain way. So whereas in Grand Theft Auto 4, it's I'll just crash through all these cars. I don't give a shit. I just need to get where I'm going, And this one, it sort of makes you drive safer at times, because there are some big benefits in the cop tree that you want to unlock. And it's not like it's forcing you to do it by punishing you. It's using positive reinforcement that if you do this right, if you drive better because you're supposed to be this undercover cop, you will get these rewards. Whereas other games use sort of a negative impact to sort of make you do certain things like that. So, right. And that's like I said, it's kind of related to those XP and those skill trees that make this game so much more engrossing than other open world games I've played.
Right. I think the thing that stands out for me most when I think about what I liked in this early impression of the game is Hong Kong. Hong Kong has never felt this fresh this generation, and it's been done before, right? We've seen games in Hong Kong all over the place, or locale that reminds us of Hong Kong or what we think Hong Kong is like, the streets, walking through marketplaces and nighttime locales being so lit up, and just the locale itself, it's nice to be in that world, and it feels refreshing, and I'm interested in driving around and seeing what's around me, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The only other game that I think has done as good of a job so far this year, maybe, is this year that I'm going to mention? Maybe not. I get the years mixed up. Is Deus Ex Human Revolution. I thought they did a really good job of kind of showing off the world it was in. And Sleeping Dogs is a really good job as well. I mean, people who are graphic horrors might complain because the engine isn't a fairly low resolution, because it is an open world game and we are using 10-year-old technology to show it. But if you can get beyond that, I mean, just the way everything else is shown is really well done. All the shops that you can go and you can visit and get health boosters and health boosters or damage boosters. Just the way the AI townspeople are kind of going around and interacting. It's done really well.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, so what do you guys think of the combat? 'Cause the combat is probably the second biggest thing besides the skill trees. That I think really sets this game apart from open world. It's kind of an open world RPG actually when you get down to it. I keep wanting to say it and I stop myself, but it's really an open world RPG, and those RPG elements is really what separates this game from a lot of games like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption.
Okay,
I would honestly compare it mostly to the Batman Arkham series of games. Yeah, it really feels like it. It's not as forgiving as Arkham is.
If you miss those counters, it beats you down pretty hard.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't interrupt an enemy counter, at least in the initial few hours that I've played. You can't interrupt an enemy counter by punching him. He's going to swing through and he's going to stab you with a knife or something like that. Yeah,
right.
But it's very similar to Arkham because the buttons are mapped the same. The camera angle kind of zooms out and lets you brawl properly, like in Arkham. And it's about as satisfying. Just like Batman, your main character is very strong. strong and very fucking talented at what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's beating the living shit out of people, and he's using the environment as a primary weapon.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, you get extra points, which they call environmental points, for using the environment to defeat enemies. And when I played this, I thought of two games in particular. The first, of course, was like you said, Batman: Arkham Asylum, and later Arkham City. Again, I think the combat in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City is a little more refined, a little more refined, but it still reminded me a lot about that. The second major game that Sleeping Dogs reminded me of is the Punisher game for the PS2, put out by THQ and Volition. I forget what year it came out. I can look it up, but anyway,
I want to believe it was 05, I think.
Yeah, but the Punisher game was heavy on using those environmental weapons, whereas you can grab guys and put them into drills and put them into fans and put them into all these environmental things. And I really got a sense that that's kind of where not where they got this idea, but I mean that's the game it reminded me of. So that and Batman: Arkham City.
Yeah, I think you guys are enjoying the combat a little bit more than I am. I thought I still think Rocksteady has the best melee combat almost to date in video games. And this is a decent attempt at it, but it's not as snappy. You don't snap into the action on each character like you did in Batman. It's a lot more loose, and the counters I felt they don't require a lot of skill, because I'm finding myself like mashing the counter button to pull off the counters, whereas in Batman, if you missed the timing on the counter button press, you couldn't really press the button again to try and catch that counter. You kind of failed and got punched in the face. Yeah. Whereas I kind of feel on this, like, sometimes I miss, like, the enemy will turn red, which indicates that I should hit my counter button, and he hasn't really hit me yet, so then I'll, like, repeatedly press the counter button real quick in succession, and I'll still get the counter off.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel like it's kind of more lenient in that case. In the combat, while like the environmental stuff that you can do is cool, and I do like it, at the end of the day, like 3-4 hours in, I find myself like almost right away just finding the stuff in the environment that I could use, using it, and then when all that stuff runs out, I'm back to standard pulling off counters and beating people through with that, cookie cutter combo.
Yeah, I think they did design it to where you're supposed to pretty much go back and forth fairly equally. I mean, you're gonna beat some enemies in areas in the open world where there are no environmental items to kind of play with, and there you're just sort of stuck in, with just using your regular combat.
And I have been playing like that, right? Like when I find myself surrounded by 4 enemies, I do the 1, 2, 3, 4 Batman Arkham series type thing where you just circle around, right? Hit the top enemy, bottom enemy, your left, your right, then go back. Constantly circle the enemies that are getting at you. And again, that lack of snappiness sometimes leaves the combat feeling a little bit clunky.
Yeah, I mean it is like I said before, it's certainly not as smooth as Arkham City was, and I just got to the point about an hour ago where I found the Kung Fu school. So as you find items in the world, collectible items, you can bring them back, and you actually can learn like new moves. So I'm sort of excited to see what new moves I'll be learning to actually make combat hopefully maybe a little more fluid. I'll tell you, I do miss the ability to roll out of a situation. I keep on like instinctively trying to hit A and left on my left stick to kind of roll away from enemies when I start getting crowded, and you can't do that in this game. Maybe that's an ability you learn later, but I'm actually really missing it at this point.
Yeah, I've unlocked 2 moves in the martial arts skill tree. One of them allows you to tackle an enemy and then punch him right in the face right there. Kind of keep him in there on the ground for a few seconds. And the other is a really fucking leg break move.
Oh, nice.
Where, yeah, you grab him and you press X and you hold X again. This is the 360 version, by the way. You do that, and he just brings his leg up and just slams it into the enemy's knee and just breaks it right there. And it usually stuns the enemy. So he's out of the fight for a few seconds. But I've looked at the skill tree, and there's some pretty good-looking moves, and it might be a little difficult to, bring yourself to it, since the skill tree branches off in 2 paths. There's some moves in both trees that I want to get, but I know I'm not going to be able to get it all.
Yeah. So you have I think you have 12. There's 12 collectible items for the fighting skill tree altogether.
Yeah,
so,
12 jade statues.
12 jade statues, correct. And so you're saying there's maybe more like 20, 24 items in the skill tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that much, I don't think, but enough to... And it's a 2-digit number.
Okay, but enough to where there's a few that you're just not gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? The design decisions of this game do work now that I'm thinking about it, right? Because like Batman, your progression in Batman isn't necessarily combat, it's more about progressing through gadgets.
Right.
Whereas this, you're progressing through combat. So I guess when I first initially started playing the game, I expected to be able to do all that cool shit, you know what I mean? Like dodge and end up behind my enemy.
Oh, like right away, right off the bat.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, that at first, that puts a little, it makes the combat feel a little stale, because you're expecting to do rollouts and jump over backs like you can in Batman right away. And in this, you can't. You have to unlock that stuff and earn the ability to do that stuff. How about the guns? Have you guys got to gun combat?
I haven't got to any gun combat yet.
I've actually put in about 5 hours, and I've actually found a singular engagement involving guns, and it demonstrates the game's combat system, which is it's fairly effective. It's a snap-on, snap-off one, and it's all right. The problem is, these firefights work in the same way that the melee combat works. So as you're fighting a bunch of guys, you'll have a counter on screen which will indicate how many thugs you have to defeat in order to end the fight. The same thing applies to the gun combat, and that becomes a problem because as the fight goes along, more enemies come into the fight. So if you've cornered a group of enemies in, say, a one-way out room and you're having a firefight, you start killing them, more enemies start coming up the route behind you and just fucking you up.
Oh, I wonder whether... So it's infinite spawn until you defeat the appropriate amount of enemies.
Yes.
So what happens... So if you defeat the appropriate amount of enemies, but it's an infinite spawn, so let's say you have to defeat 10 enemies, right? But they've been infinitely spawning, you have 25. Like, what happened? Did they run away? Like, oh, this guy's too tough.
They just run away.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
They're saying, "Oh God, this guy's gonna fuck me up." I think it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Right. I only had one encounter with guns, and they were shooting at me, and that was it so far. I mean, in interviews and when they're talking about this game, they say Gunplay comes in much later, but they kind of started without it, since realistically in Hong Kong there just aren't guns are not prevalent, so they didn't want to start with big firefights because that just wouldn't be the same.
Right.
To compare it to other sandbox crime games, I would say it's a slightly better system than is used in the GTA series. But at the same time, it doesn't feel quite as refreshing. I mean, granted, I've only encountered one particular firefight in 5 hours of gameplay, and it's clear to me that the melee combat takes a 10 times more important precedence over gun combat.
Yeah.
But just doesn't feel as good as it should.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move into like what we're disliking about it right now, let's talk real quick. Driving, the driving engine in the game. What are our thoughts on that so far?
I think it's really good. I like it a lot better than GTA 4.
I do too. I agree.
It's a little more like I'm gonna keep going back to this over and over again, but it's more arcadey, it's more gamey, and I think it works better for this sort of game. I still historically despise motorcycles in these games because they handle so poorly. I ride a motorcycle in real life, and motorcycles in video games, GTA 4, is nothing like in real life at all. It just does. They don't have the feel. They don't have that sense of speed. So you don't have a really good sense of how fast you're going on a bike. They don't handle the same. So I always despise them. But I love the way the cars. I really do like the way the car handles. Here's one thing that's really funny. So I was playing with the cars, and I was driving around, and I don't RTFM. I don't do that. So I was just going, and I kept on like hitting X to try to power slide. And my car would do this weird like thing where it would just like kind of go sideways. And for like 10 minutes, I'm like, God, they really fucked up with the handbrake power slide thing in this game. Like, why is it doing this really weird like sideways thing? This is awful. Like, I love this game, but like this is a major fuck up. And then I realized that B is actually the power slide handbrake button. And X is a ram button. Like an arcadey ram button. So you're driving, you hit X, and you kind of ram in whatever direction you're steering. So I was trying to do corners and ram around the corner, and I was wondering why the car was handling like shit. But that's really fun. Like, I did this one of the missions, one of the earlier missions. You're getting chased, or a lot of missions you're getting chased by cops and stuff, and you have to use the ram button to sort of lose the cops or take somebody down. And when you take them down, like if you do it right, they flip around in slow motion, and it's like almost like Need for Speed. Like the Need for Speed crashes that are all the rage right now, where you wreck somebody and they wreck in real slow motion. That same exact thing happens, and it's so cool. I mean, it just like I don't know. Like one thing I love about this game, I wrote down in my notes here. I wrote down micro mechanics micro. I actually wrote down micro mechanisms, but I probably should have said micro mechanics. It's because there's so many like little things in this game that you can do that all sort of like conjoined together. So you have your character, your main character, you have your skill trees, you have your experience, but then you can find or buy outfits, and if you complete all the outfits, you get bonuses to different things. Like certain bonuses will like increase cop XP or face XP. You have surveillance cameras you can hack, and then you can watch them from your apartment.
Great segue, Joseph, because I was about to say, outside of that, all the mini stuff, the stuff that makes this game fun was the last thing before we talk about what we dislike. Can I just say, I agree with you on the driving. I like this driving engine. I feel like it is more arcadey, and it lets you pull off the stuff that you want to. Yeah. Because that's what you want to do, right? When you're on a freaking, an escape run from, a city full of cops, you want to be able to do the cinematic, clipping, fishtailing in and out of side streets easily, and having it feel fun without feeling like you can't do it and pull off some, shitty spin outs and stuff. So, in the sense of speed, like, I don't know about you, but I'm using mostly motorcycles right now. And when you drop, top speed on that thing, you're going really fucking fast, like Burnout Paradise fast. Like things are whizzing by, and I think that's very effective, in the game. But I definitely agree with you too on all the fun factor elements in the game, with the clothing and with the surveillance cameras and all the little little stuff that you can collect and find, and all that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and what's really important is that all of these things, they fit into the world. So many games will try to add in so many different little things that they just seem shoehorned. Like a prime example of that was Lollipop Chainsaw. That all these mini games that seemed to sort of come out of nowhere, it didn't really fit, and were just kind of annoying every time you had to do them. This game actually has stuff that does fit into sort of the themes of the world, and it gives you more stuff to do, gives you stuff to collect, and not only just collect, but again, what I was saying before with that positive reinforcement, like in GTA 4, sure, I can buy more clothes, but like, what is that going to do other than make me look different? In this game, if I buy more clothes and get the correct sets, I get bonuses. I get more XP, I can do more damage. It's like it's that positive reinforcement to push the player along to do these sort of mini game type of things that make Sleeping Dogs work so well. I don't even want to be talking to you guys. I want to go play.
I know.
I don't want to be fucking talking to you guys right now.
Okay, we'll move on into stuff we're not liking so much about the game, but I do want to ask Chris. Chris, what do you think about the humor elements of the game?
At least as far as my experience goes, there's a few little things like the random encounters you have with strangers that always get a laugh out of me.
The vendor. So you look like you need a pork bun.
Yeah, there's some good NPC conversations going around, especially the two ladies that stand right outside your apartment.
Those are over. Every time I leave,
yeah.
Listen to them for a while first before I go.
Yeah, you gotta stop and listen to them between missions. But I mean, it's the little things. Like there's some random encounters that you find throughout the world, and it plays on you're being the good cop Samaritan trying to help out somebody. So I pulled over. I was on the highway, and there was a lady who flagged me down who was having engine trouble, and I go over to check out the engine. And the camera's pulled in real quick, and I hear something behind me, and all of a sudden a tire iron comes out and slams me in the back of the head. A guy starts laughing and runs away, and I had to chase down his ass and beat the shit out of him. But I mean, it's little things. It's not. There's not a whole lot of humor. This is not a Saints Row game,
yeah,
and it doesn't take much inspiration from Saints Row, but it's still got some little things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one thing that's really helps with those humor situations, and I think the story in general, is the voice acting is really good in this game. It's really good. Some of the cutscenes and the character models are right, okay. Some of the character models and stuff might not look the best in the cutscenes by today's standards, but the voice acting more than makes up for it.
Yeah.
And I think they went with they went with professional actors and stuff, and it really shows. One thing I wanted to mention real quick to go back to the driving real quick. What's the point of opening your door? Is that just to knock people on the sidewalk down?
Okay.
'Cause that's what I've been doing.
Here's how it works. This is actually taking a page directly out of Just Cause.
Okay.
You remember the stunt ability where you can just leap out of a car and do whatever the fuck?
Right.
It takes that.
Okay.
And allows you to leap between vehicles and take them over.
See, I had no idea. I just been opening my door and then going next to the sidewalk and knocking people over with it. I thought that's what it was for.
Well,
of course you
no,
are, Joseph.
But that's a nice use of it.
That's what I thought. All right, well.
No, I was actually able to pull that off once, and it was pretty fucking exhilarating. It was like something out of a Stranglehold, or again, Just Cause.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. And again, I think we can mention Stranglehold is probably a source of inspiration for this game in a lot of ways.
Okay, so let me start by saying all the open world jank is still here, right? That's one thing that I still like. The one thing that I'm really disliking about Sleeping Dogs is I feel like I went to go see some dude who was sitting on a couch on a basketball court. It was fucking raining. Everybody's outside hanging out in the fucking rain. No, who cares? We're just chilling.
But they're gangsters, though. They're tough guys. They
You
can
don't fuck with the Triad.
That stuff.
They're like little
Not
rain.
even Mother Nature fucks with the Triad.
He's like, motherfucker, this couch is wet. I don't care.
That stuff does, like, it bothers me.
You think that? Yeah.
It's that GTA stuff.
Yeah, you think that if it was raining, as soon as you started the mission, they would make the rain go away.
Yeah, or something. It's just that stuff breaks that reality for me.
That kind of does happen. I experienced a few missions to where one of them had me going around taking pictures of various famous Hong Kong locations, and I went to a certain point. This was actually on the feed, and I took a picture, but the daytime cycle, the day-night cycle, went from night all of a sudden to like sunset the next day, which didn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. And then it went straight back into the night, like
Oh.
where I was.
That's the one where the drunk guy tries to get into your picture.
Yeah, and I threw him over the railing, and it was.
I took the picture with him in it, and it wouldn't take it. I was like, "Oh, damn it! I want that on a T-shirt because I like that guy." It was kind of. Yeah, I know the open world jank. I think I think that it's sort of nitpicky, but that low resolution I spoke about earlier. It's hard for me to find. I haven't found too much fault with this game in general yet. I am, there's basically always three types of missions going on at the same time. There's the cop missions, which are sometimes called cases. There's the main missions, which are usually green, which are your triad cases, and then there's the yellow ones, which are your fame cases or face cases. And I'm my only concern is that that's going to be a lot of side missions, and I might get tired of them after a while. But then again, then I have the RPG elements of the game, so I'm not going to mind grinding missions if it means it gets me closer to an ability that I really want to use. So,
yeah, the only thing that really kind of irks me about the game is that the combat isn't, and since it's not as forgiving as Arkham City. Going back to that. You'll get fucked up very, very easily.
Yeah. If you miss like a couple of counters and you get yourself surrounded, you can find yourself in a position where you'll die very quickly.
You'll die very quickly, and you respawn at the nearest hospital, but it doesn't have a checkpoint system built into the game, so I can't go back to that point and reinitialize that mission. Now, in the primary missions, like for the cops for the triad, it does feature that.
Yeah, the checkpointing is very good for the main missions.
But for like the side missions, like the drug bus,
right,
or just beating up a group of thugs, no, it sends you to a hospital. It costs you money, and then you got to drive all the way back there and restart it all over again.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a weird dichotomy because for some missions, there's great checkpointing, and then like for instance, the mission with the basketball court we were just talking about, where the guy's on the couch. When you first get captured by the police and you have to get out of those handcuffs, I should mention too, the quick times in this game are really fast, and
they are
really fast. But I failed that one, and I got arrested, and I failed the thing, and then it checkpointed me exactly where the cops were showing up, and for a second I was like, oh god, don't tell me I have to do that whole thing again. But on the side missions, like you said, like they kind of put you out in the middle of nowhere and you have to go all the way back, which is kind of a pain. But I can't think of any other way you could do that in an open world game, unless the checkpoint was exactly when the encounter started, and then you'd have to start there. But they want to do the whole hospital thing because they want to keep it realistic, or to a point realistic, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, I can't think of anything that's really outstanding for me that I'm having a big problem with. I mean, I don't know, the ambient lighting could be better.
Yeah, you know what I think? I'm feeling the same way. I'm being picky here and there about like combat rather, and stuff like that. But
I'm picky about my combos, only the pizza kind.
So. Thanks, Joseph,
there's only
my thoughts.
Sorry.
Now I'm thinking about fucking flips. I prefer flips. Chocolate pretzels.
Oh yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. Not a big chocolate guy.
Yeah, the two other things that slightly annoy me about the game. Number one, Hong Kong is fucking huge, and in GTA, at least, you could hail down a taxi and get to wherever you want. I find maybe one taxi an hour.
Yeah,
and it really irks me, because I don't know this map yet. And while the navigation system works just fine, I want to get there, lickety split. Mm-hmm. And the only other thing, the day-night cycle, it seems to put a hell of a lot of emphasis on nighttime gameplay. So I can't really drive. I don't get to drive around Hong Kong all that much and see what it's like during the daytime. It's mostly the nightlife that I get to see.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, I'm just nitpicking at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to search for things I don't like about this game so far.
Right. I hope the narrative keeps up. And I think it will, right? Because the voice acting's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think watching these characters interact and stuff is really fun. I like the interaction between the main character and his childhood friend, Ming, I think his name is.
Jackie.
I'm sorry, Jackie. Yeah, I like their interactions with each other. Yeah, I like their interactions. Yeah, I like their interactions with each other. I'm not so crazy about his interaction with the female police officer, but it's a little dry. But maybe that'll get better as time goes on. The main cop, I forget his name.
The British guy.
The British guy. Yeah, I don't really like his character too much. It's very kind of cliche, and I don't think it really fits with the atmosphere so much. But maybe there'll be a twist later in the story that kind of ends up making sense. Yeah. But I think so far the story's going to hold up.
Yeah. Soundtrack, too. I like the soundtrack so far.
Well, you know what it is? It's not really so much the in-game soundtrack, it's the car soundtrack.
Yeah, of course.
And what happens is, I was going to actually have a little note about this. When you start a mission or you're in a vehicle and you're doing a mission, the radio always seems to go to the most appropriate song or the coolest song for that moment on purpose. And I think that's a presentation thing that was done really well. And I really like it. And the presentation for this game is really pretty great all around, but I think that's a really nice touch.
Right.
I mean, the music on the radio has been pretty great so far. There's a Roadrunner Records station.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
awesome.
I was about to say that's the fucking greatest
I'm waiting
station.
for them to show some like typo negative or something.
No, there's I heard Fear Factory.
Yeah.
And the Opeth song, which is awesome. So
I was driving around in Hong Kong to Dream Theater. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yes, it's awesome.
This is awesome.
So there you have it, listeners. I guess that's it. Keep it here at 4playerpodcast.com. We broadcast games every night at 4pp.tv/live. In case you don't know, I have a Twitter. 4Player Podcast has a Twitter at 4Player Podcast. I know Joseph has a Twitter. Joseph, what's your Twitter?
At the Joseph Christ.
At the Joseph Christ. And Chris Davis?
At Slacker-chan. Slacker, C-H-A-N.
And I am at QualityBeats84. Thanks, guys. It was fun.
No problem, man. Thank you very much.
Get you around.